Hey there, storytellers. This is Author Culture, a quick dive into stories, how they connect with readers, and how we can build sustainable success as authors. You might notice that this episode and the episodes following will be just a bit shorter. While I really enjoyed the long form content and the deep dives that went for up to an hour sometimes, I just didn't have the time in my schedule to do that sustainably. I'm already an author, a coach, a speaker, and a teacher. And so with 25 books in my backlist and more on the way, and all these different things kind of tugging at my schedule, I needed to trim this podcast down just to give myself a little more margin. And maybe you can relate to this from your own life, where you look at your schedule and you go, wow, that thing that I was doing as just kind of a fun side thing is actually taking up more hours than I really planned on it taking up. And I love podcasting and it's great, but I'm not a professional full-time podcaster. And so it was taking up a little more time than I had to spare. So here we are. Same author culture, same Janeen, just a bit shorter episodes, faster action items, and a quick hit of encouragement that easily fits into your week and easily fits into my podcasting schedule. So what does this actually look like now? Well, each week we are going to dive into some kind of story. We're going to explore it a bit, pull out something for you to chew on, whether it's an action item, a tip that you can implement right now, or an awesome bit of encouragement, and then you'll be on your way. Now, in terms of story, this story can be a book, short story, something from sci-fi or fantasy or other fandoms. It can be the story of an author guest, or even a nonfiction story, something from the writing or publishing news area. So on occasion, I will be diving into little bits of stories that we see happening in the publishing world. And for today's story, we're diving into one of my favorite books. I know, I have a lot of them. Now, this year is the official 75th anniversary of the publication of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And the actual official date is, I believe, October 16th, 2025. And so I am really excited to dive into this, and I'm going to share 5 impossible reasons why this story works. Because as I looked at the story, I went, wow, there's so many reasons why this book should not have succeeded, and so many reasons why any decent marketer should have sat down and said, hey, Lewis, you know what? I don't think this is going to sell well. And yet, here we are. So we're going to dive into those 5 impossible reasons why this story works, plus what you can learn from it and how it can encourage you. We're going to tackle 2 reasons this week and then 3 reasons in my forthcoming episode. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And if you aren't already subscribed to this podcast, make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube, Spotify, Apple iTunes, Substack, or wherever you listen to your podcast so that you do not miss any episodes. And our first impossible reason is this is a portal fantasy. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is a portal fantasy. And I can just picture the agents and the editors rolling their eyes right now and going, it could work, but it's portal fantasy. It's a tougher sell. Do you have anything else? Or to just kind of take your manuscript with some skepticism. And I think it's because of the popularity of portal fantasies like the Chronicles of Narnia, The Wizard of Oz, the Circle trilogy by Ted Dekker, and even Alice in Wonderland, that all these authors, when they're younger, they read these portal fantasy stories aimed at kids, or in the Circle trilogy aimed at teenagers, or adults. They can enjoy that too. Anyway, they read the books and they're like, wow, this is really cool. I can see myself in the story. I want to enter the story myself. I'm going to write a portal fantasy. The truth is, nailing a portal fantasy is a lot tougher than taking on other kinds of storytelling. You have to have a tight sense of plotting, an intentional and intuitive connection between the real world and the portal world, because the portal world often mirrors or reflects situations in the real world. And you have to have thoroughly compelling characters that aren't simply just the author, inserting themselves into the story world and having a grand old time by themselves. That might be interesting for you as an author and for your close-knit circle of friends, but you need to engage readers beyond that. And so those characters that are entering the new world, they need more development on their own. They need to be very interesting enough that the reader is going to follow them along on the journey. And in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Lewis really nails the portal fantasy aspects of the story. While the first sentence of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe simply lists the names of the 4 children, it immediately drops them into a tense place, even in our world, because they are fleeing to the English countryside, leaving their parents in war-torn London while they are going to safety at the house of this professor they don't know. They're out of their element. That's an immediate place of tension, especially for children. And then shortly after, Lucy finds the wardrobe and she goes immediately into Narnia where she meets Tumnus the Faun. And because he is in fact trying to kidnap her but then fails, she gets embroiled in the politics and the drama and the difficulties in that world with the oppression of the White Witch. So we have the real world conflict that is sort of in the background of the minds of the children. And then we have this conflict that is happening in Narnia that immediately engages all of the children. And of course, Edmund turns traitor. And so that immediately gives them purpose and a focus in Narnia. There's not really any dithering around Narnia here. The world building comes as you go, but there's definitely a strong plot that ties everything together. And furthermore, Lewis is definitely writing this for children. That was one of his intents. He worked on this for years and kind of thought about it. And even though he definitely added some world building elements that were out of his own fun and his own humor and his own mission, he also really wasn't going for self-inserts here. So he's already in a place where he's trying to develop this story for others. He's getting feedback from the Inklings, etc. And so even though portal fantasies are kind of one of those bugaboos that sometimes you're just like, don't do a portal fantasy, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is an example of one that is done very well. And that brings us to our second impossible reason for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe's success. Lewis just basically tossed a bunch of his favorite mythology into a blender, poured it out, and tossed it into the world building of this book. We have elements of Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Norse mythology, Irish and British fairy tales, Germanic folklore, tossed in some Arthurian romance. The guy just really went for it. I mean, he even put Santa Claus in there. Now, he did do Father Christmas, and he made sure to understand that he was not the same holly, jolly, silly, pot-bellied kind of character that we're used to in American commercialism. He is a more somber character and a more serious character, but he still put Father Christmas in the same story verse that has Bacchus and the Maenads and has Fenris, all from Norse mythology, depending on which version of the book you read. And the thing is, all good marketers know that this is a no-no. I mean, who would put Bacchus and the Maenads having parties and handing out wine in a book aimed at children? This is one of the reasons why Prince Caspian still sometimes gets the side eye from certain homeschool teachers and in certain classrooms and even in certain stage productions. People are just like, what is the guy doing here? And why? Why is all this random mythology in this book? Now, the thing is, Lewis was a scholar of ancient mythologies. He really liked the stuff. He thought it was cool, and he wanted to include them in his story because he liked it so much, because it was a way to kind of flesh out that world building, and because he wanted to build a whole larger mythos beyond just a one-to-one Christian allegory. For Christian listeners out there and Christian readers, sometimes this can make them cranky because they're like, oh, it gets things all muddled. It makes me weirdly uncomfortable. I want my one-to-one allegory, but he didn't want to do that, and he was the author of the book. He wanted something larger. He wanted something that would sneak past the watchful dragons and would be a fun and engaging story, whether or not you held his Christian beliefs. And so that's what he did. Now, as to how Lewis got away with this, like, why didn't he get a hand slap from his publisher saying, dude, no, you don't get to do this? I hazard that it was a different publishing environment back then. He already came in with some credibility. He already came in having other published works by then. He was a known quantity. And hey, they just rolled with it, and then it really took off. And so more books followed: The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And those books got kind of stranger and weirder and more fun as they went. And Lewis just got away with it. If you can be successful with your initial starter books, then often publishers will go, well, I don't really get it, but people are buying it, so sure. Publishing is also a business, and there can be certain elements of pragmatism to the publishing industry. And of course, now with the publishing industry, including so many indie authors, all of y'all indie authors can do exactly what you want. You can do whatever crazy mashups you want of any kind of mythology you want in any which way that you want, and no one can stop you. I will just warn you that in this day and age, in order to more directly connect with readers, there are a number of indies who are actually veering away from that kind of crazy levels of mythology and creativity and going towards a little more boxed in tropes in order to directly connect with readers and do better cross promotion, all of that. It doesn't mean you can't do your crazy fun mashups and all of that. It just means you have to be smart about it, own your story vibes. If you can, choose a genre that naturally just loves crazy epic mashups and go for it there, and work to connect with your ideal readers who want your kind of story. Because even though Lewis did do all these crazy mashups of different mythologies, he still kept the story in mind, that it was aimed at kids and that he wanted them going through this kind of adventure. So do you have any examples of crazy mythology mashups in the modern day? Also, what's your favorite Portal fantasy? Let me know in a comment below on YouTube, Substack, or social media. And make sure you subscribe so we can continue this conversation every week with short, fun, weekly episodes to encourage you, inspire you, and give you fun ideas for your own storytelling. And I'll see you next week in the second part of this two-parter series. And I'm going to be sharing my final 3 impossible reasons why The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe works. For now, remember that your existence is fantastic. Now go forth and be awesome.